You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
We're now into hour number 3. Max Keiser's with us for another 20 minutes. Then, the incredible audio and video of an AARP ad with subliminal martial law announcements. Will you guys pull a couple of the other latest subliminal stuff we've covered the last few months, usually attacking InfoWars? I mean, it's getting crazy. So that's coming up. Let's go to calls for Max Keiser at maxkeiser.com. Scott in Washington, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Thanks for putting me on first, Alex. I'm going to say hi to Max Keiser because I really appreciate his grasp on the economy. But my question for Max is, stepping outside of the systems of monetary policy all over the globe, we have monetary policy in governments that are oppressing us. They're enslaving us because they have the control of issuance of credit and currency that you still play with as a capitalist. Now, first I have to say, the capitalist using currency issued at interest is one of the worst representations of a capitalist, in my opinion. I have a question of how do you suggest we step outside of these systems that divide us using currency?
I know what he's going to say. He's going to say use cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, but I think it goes further. Having a garden, going and buying stuff from Amish, buying from local shops, voting with your dollars is a way to actually use their fraudulent currency. And I think being in their system but acting wisely within it is the surest way to change it. But also working outside of it at the same time. I think it's a multifaceted attack profile. Max Keiser, what do you say?
Well, I like the idea of using the tools of the enemy against them. And so two things.
You said go after Coca-Cola like 5 years ago. They're in trouble. We've now got McDonald's in trouble. Sorry, we'll talk about that in the next segment.
Yeah, well, that idea of boycotting companies while selling the stock short, which at the time I called Karma Bank, I'm relaunching that hopefully with Russell Brand here in the United Kingdom. It's going to be called the True Boycott Hedge Fund. And we're starting to put that back in place now. So if you boycott a company and the stock goes down, the hedge fund makes money by making negative bets against that stock, and then we'll do things like use the profits to retire student debt or fund, the victims of Coca-Cola or the victims of McDonald's, et cetera. The second way I'm doing it, and I sent Nico the link, is I'm also starting another hedge fund. Again, the idea is to use the tools against the guys who are doing the most damage. And this is called Bitcoin Capital. It's another fund. It's at bitcoincapital.io is the address for it. And I'm raising $1 million for this new fund. And it's going to be used to invest in cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency mining. So people.
Well, listen, we've had Russell Brand on many times. I know he's a friend of yours. He's a listener of ours. We've met with him here in Austin. But I want to get you both on when you launch that to help promote it because I want to get fully behind that. Man, I tell you, isn't Russell Brand an imposing person in person?
He's a superstar, and he's got the goods to really lead a political movement in the United Kingdom and around the world. He just did a fantastic. Talk about independent media. His Truths is now bigger than the Sun newspaper here in the UK. He just had Ed Miliband, who could quite possibly be the country's prime minister next week. He just interviewed him on his independent podcast, The Truths, today. So he's emerging as an enormously influential political figure in the United Kingdom. He's got followers all over the world, and we're fortunate to be able to do some things with him. We're crowdfunding his Truths cafes. We're doing that all around London. We've crowdfunded some scratch cards where we give away crypto to people for free. The Start Coin, which I created last year, we have a deal with Russell where we just give them away free.
It's very exciting. I tell you, in person, I've been around a lot of famous people. He's got a very strong presence. He's a good guy, and he's a listener. He says we help wake him up, so I'm proud to see his transformation. And I like the fact that he said Katy Perry was a listener. I know her dad's been on.
I was born on the prairies where the wind blew free, and there was nothing to break the light of the sun. I was born where there were no enclosures. Geronimo. I wonder what he thinks of the permanent checkpoints, where you're quizzed about your citizenship, about having to submit to bag searches to ride public transportation, his thoughts on nonviolent offenders rotting away in prisons. They say that in these current times we are more, quote, civilized, but are we really more free? When the Persian army demanded King Leonidas and his Spartans surrender their arms, the outnumbered king shouted Molon Labe, or come and take them. Even though Leonidas was eventually defeated by a much larger adversary, he is not remembered for his loss. He lives in history as a beacon of defiance and self-defense. The desire to disarm the people is nothing new. Arm yourself with knowledge at Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.tv, and the Alex Jones channel on YouTube.
In the near future.
When you realize how fake it all is, the football, the basketball.
Alert. Security alert. This is Homeland Security. Analysis. Infowars building independent media operation.
You let the worst people get control and tell us that we are the ones responsible.
Prime directive. Discredit Alex Jones.
Jones is the wildly popular conspiracy theorist.
A popular conspiracy theory talk show called Infowars.
Alex Jones is now in an Austin jail.
These people are assaulting us.
Targeting of patriots engaged.
They are never going to stop. They're never going to deviate from their program until we stop them.
Block free iPhone app at Infowars.com. Block free podcast and video feed. Imperative. Destroy Prison Planet TV.
You gotta set your eye on the enemy, not worry about what propaganda they put out. Intellectually, it's begun. You can feel it.
What lies at the heart of InfoWars and everything we do? At the core is fellow human beings of every race, color, and creed across the United States and the planet that believe in personal liberty. And it's people like you that have promoted the radio broadcast to their friends and family. It's people like you that have bought the high-quality products at InfoWarsStore.com that have made everything we do possible. And that's why I want to salute you. You have helped us build this operation. You don't stand beside us or behind us or even in front of us. You stand at the heart of InfoWars. That's why in the month of April, we're offering some of the biggest specials yet to introduce listeners to these high-quality nutraceuticals at InfoWarsLife.com. 50% off high-quality colloidal silver bullet. Buy 2 X2 nascent iodines. Get 1 fluoride shield absolutely free and free shipping. 50% off silver bullet. Free shipping. Free bottles of fluoride shield detoxer. Find the specials at InfoWarsLife.com.
Defending the Republic from enemies, foreign and domestic. It's Alex Jones.
Shortly before his death, Martin Luther King had this to say, and it's the reason they killed him. He wanted peace, and the power structure wanted violence to discredit. Here it is.
I feel that killing is a very tragic way to deal with any social problem. There is no violent solution to the problem that the Negro confronts in this country, and this is why I have constantly said that riots are socially destructive and self-defeating. After all, the Negro ends up on the losing end. We can't win a violent revolution. Most of the persons killed in riots are Negroes themselves. The persons who end up not being able to get milk for their children are Negroes because things where they have to live are destroyed. So there's no practical or moral answer in the realm of violence to the Negro's problem.
That's Martin Luther King, and now we again have the big push for more violence in the Justice Department to save us. We're going to have some breaking news on that coming up in the next segment, but right now we're taking calls from Max Keiser. I have some Twitter questions here that we're going to get to in a moment as well, but let's move quickly through the calls. Let's talk to John in New Jersey. Thanks for holding, John. You're on the air.
Hi, Max. I'm wondering, I have most of my money in an IRA, but I'd like to probably get it out. I don't know where to send my money. I'm so scared about the United States and putting it in one of these funds in gold like Peter Schiff suggests, or I don't know where to even diversify. You can't get things to Russia if you wanted to put it into rubles. What do you do, send it to Singapore or Liechtenstein? I don't know. Where do you think the best avenues of diversifying if there is a real collapse?
Well, sometimes I defer to people who I think are really quite competent answering some of these questions. I'll give you two answers. The first one is that if you look up a guy named Doug Casey, I think he's been on your show, Alex, a couple of times.
Sure, Doug Casey. I want to get him back on.
Yeah, The Internationalist or The Internationalist Living. And he's fantastic at really diving into how to diversify and how to invest and how to escape, being caught up in one location and not able to get any freedom at all. The second thing I'll point out, and I just heard this, is kind of an interesting story, is that, the dollar right now is going up because the derivative markets and everything's priced in derivatives. As the derivative markets are being shut down because of this global deflation problem, there's actually a rush to buy U.S. dollars because they're priced in dollars, and the big institutional players need to buy dollars. At some point when that ends, then the dollar collapses. And the way to play this on both sides is the Hong Kong dollar, because the Hong Kong dollar is actually pegged to the U.S. dollar. So you get the ride on the way up, and then when the dollar peaks out and starts to crash, and China unpegs the Hong Kong dollar from the U.S. dollar. I
was about to say, it's a dangerous game if you're not an expert. But you can ride the expanding stock markets. You can ride the other currencies if you're an expert in doing it every day. I understand this stuff, but I don't even try to do it because it's so dangerous.
Is a fantastic resource for this, and he really gets into the nuts and bolts of it. And that's who, my go-to guy. And
who is again?
Doug Casey, C-A-S-E-Y.
Sure. I knew you said Doug Casey. I was just talking over here. I thought you might have said somebody else. Who else do you like to listen to?
Well, it's for the individual who is looking for solutions. I think Doug is a great guy. But broadly speaking, I listen to the same guys that you listen to, Mark Faber, Peter Schiff. These guys I think are clued in. And at the moment, we're all kind of on the receiving end of this enormous market failure, driven by the central banks themselves just buying all the bonds that they themselves are issuing, and that is a definition of a Ponzi scheme. And exactly when that breaks, nobody knows for sure, but it's not a healthy situation. So being prepared ahead of time, though, makes sense.
Well, it certainly does, and there's different strategies. You can be a prepper, have a low-level job, small place out in the country, develop your own economy, meet a lot of people work in a machine shop, work with the Amish, just become self-sufficient. That's one survival model. Then there's learn how everything works, manipulate the globalist-owned system, because an internationalist is not a globalist. An internationalist knows how to go from country to country and use the diversity for security and profit. The globalists want to end any real diversity, end country firewalls, and create a systematic corporate global fascist governance worldwide. Max, you think that's a accurate definition?
Yeah, that's a good point. The internationalist, as Doug Casey describes it, he would have a company registered in one country, a passport in a second country, and live in a third country. And this way, you've got some protection against the globalists, the people who want to introduce one world government and shut down territories one by one. You want to be able to try to stay one step ahead of that. And the way that he describes it, and he's been around for many years. I actually used to read his research 25 years ago. The guy's a long, long time. He's like Bill Chapman almost. He's like been around for 40 years. He's a veteran, and a lot of people don't follow him because he's just been like part of the landscape. But for the people in the know, I think his insights are extremely valuable.
Absolutely. I don't have guests on this show unless they're been accurate like 90% of the time. And you turn into MSNBC or CNBC, it's like 90% inaccurate. It's not that they're even stupid. They have a script to feed their victims. And I will not be part of victimizing my audience, and you won't either. I think that's what it comes down to. It's not like we're angels or something. But, man, I'm not knocking old ladies in the head, Max. And I'm telling you, that's what CNN and others are doing.
Yeah, well,